Hallo, Derek hier. Wir hatten gerade eine unserer wöchentlichen Q&As von unserer Mitgliedschaftsseite. Details in der Beschreibung natürlich. Und ich habe zwei Fragen für so einen Ausschnitt für euch. Der erste, es geht um so sogenannte Phrasal Verbs oder Phrasalverben und wie die so maschinelle Übersetzungsprogramme wie Google Translate verwirren und was das für Probleme verursachen kann. Und der zweite geht um, wie unabhängig Logik und Sprache sind. Das sind Sachen, wo man logisch irgendwas erwarten würde, aber sprachlich sah man was ganz anderes und das ist auch eine relativ interessante Frage. So, ich hoffe, es gefällt euch. Here is it. The next one is, it's actually quite an interesting one. It came up with phrasal verbs. And one of the examples I gave is the phrasal verb take off, meaning to impersonate somebody. And the example I gave is she can take off Margaret Thatcher really well. No, she can impersonate Margaret Thatcher really well. And then it says, when I put this text into Google Translate and then translated it back into English, it says she can undress Margaret Thatcher very well. How can I avoid this? And I said, well, the slightly glib and snarky answer is, well, don't use Google Translate for anything important because it's not very good. And this shows exactly why. So in things like phrasal verbs, where take off, I think, has got 6 or 7 different meanings. It'll be in the lesson. And they are different. And the poor automatic or the machine translation tool, i.e. Google Translate in this case, doesn't know which one you mean and tries to maybe guess from context. Maybe it tosses a coin or throws a dice. I don't know. But of all the machine translation tools there, Google Translate is generally considered to be the worst, unfortunately. Which doesn't mean, of course, that it's completely useless. So if I got, say, a whole load of text in any language I don't understand, I could just paste it into Google Translate and get a kind of rough idea of what they're saying. And that's fine for that. But for anything more nuanced or detailed, nah, forget it. There's a DeepL, DEEPL.com. That's 1000% better than Google Translate. It doesn't have as many languages though, but they are increasing it. And it's still not perfect, but it's a lot better than Google Translate. But ultimately, there's a reason why people have translation as a career and a job. Is because the computer just doesn't know everything, our intentions and so on, the way a human reader would. And the last one, it kind of made me smile a bit because it overlaps very heavily with a character weakness of mine. And it's to do with negative questions and the best way to get to answer them. So it says, for instance, does he not have a book? And there's 2 parts to this question. The first one is it wrong to ask a question in this manner? And the second one, if my response is that he doesn't have a book, what do we say? No, he doesn't, or yes, he doesn't. So the first part first, is it wrong to ask a question in this manner? No, of course not. It's perfectly legitimate. All the tenses and aspects lessons have the negative question as one of the examples. So we start off with positive statement, negative statement, question, negative question. And this is the negative question. And it's perfectly legitimate to say, does he not have a book? Or doesn't he have a book? No worries there. This is where I sort of had to grin a bit because I get into trouble for doing this, because logic and language, they kind of are really unrelated. They don't have a lot to do with each other. So if someone to say a negative statement, now put it the other way around. Someone makes a positive statement, a question. Is this your book? If it is, you say yes. You agree, you make a positive statement. And if it's not, you say no. And there's no confusion here, no sort of surprises. But with a negative one, if someone says, is this not your book? Or does he not have a book? And he doesn't. Logically, you would say yes. the statement is correct. He doesn't have a book. But nobody ever says this. Everyone always says, no, he doesn't have a book, which is purely illogical because you're saying the statement is false, which must mean he does have a book. But fortunately, everyone does this, and it's only idiots like me who will say, so like for instance, I was in a hospital once and someone said, oh, that's not your blue car parked out the front. And I said, yes. And they said, oh, well, it's in the way. I said, no, yes, that's not my blue car parked out the front. Okay, I was being a dick, I admit it, but I do this more than once. And it's one of my character weaknesses. So it's tempting to impose a level of logic in the language that is not really suitable or sensible. But I agree, it is daft and it's illogical, but it's what everybody does. Das war der kurze Ausschnitt für diese Woche von unserer Frage-Antwort-Session. Wer selbst eine Frage hat, kann die gerne in die Kommentare stellen. Geht auf jeden Fall eine Antwort, auch wenn es nur eine kurze Antwort in den Kommentar von mir ist oder ausführlich in eine zukünftige Q&A. Und wer Interesse hat, eine volle Mitglied zu sein, da ist auch ein Link in der Beschreibung. Da steht viel mehr Information plus kostenlose so Schnupperproben. Einfach gucken, vielleicht ist was Interessantes dabei. Bis nächste Woche. Tschüss.